Now, Labour is accusing the government of having a childcare pledge without a plan, after Ofsted analysis suggested the number of childcare places fell by 1,000 last year.
Well, this comes as new data from money-saving app Plum shows that almost 40% of parents are spending over £200 a week on childcare, up from just under 30% last year.
Well, we can actually speak to Plum's head of money, Rajan Lakhani. Very good morning to you. Just in terms of this childcare, on the basis, on the top of this, it looks like good news. You get more childcare a week, which is now available, 15 hours of free childcare a week. That seems like good news. What concerns, though, do parents have?
Well, it is a welcome development, this extra 15 hours for 2-year-olds a week starting from this week. And then that'll be expanded further in September to 9-month-olds, and then between 9-month-olds to under 5-year-olds by September next year. So it is a welcome development, but there are challenges in terms of the deliverability of these childcare changes. A number of providers have experienced issues in terms of the shortfall of finances they have to deliver this. Now, the government have, to their credit, taken some steps to address this. The Chancellor recently announced guaranteed rates, which will rise, which will be index linked to make sure that childcare providers have enough finance to pay staff. And that's one of the big costs that have increased. Childcare providers aren't immune from inflation. They've had the same issues that we've all faced, whether it's with the energy bills, rental costs, or staffing costs today. And I noted, in your headlines, you mentioned the minimum wage rising as well, and that's another cost that childcare providers are having to pay. So all these costs are rising, but there's a big shortfall, and now the government are taking steps to help address it, but they're still facing a significant shortfall, and that's challenging the deliverability. And as you highlighted earlier as well, there's a big supply and demand issue, as a number of providers have either had to reduce what they can provide or can't provide any support at all and had to close down.
Absolutely, Rajan. And just from my personal experience, I've just had a little girl, she's 3 months old, and already I'm being told to try and register her at a nursery, and a couple of the nurseries that we've spoken to have said we simply don't have the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really big challenge, and it's really hard for parents. Some research we did at Plum found that 68% of parents find the whole childcare process confusing, because you've got free childcare hours, you've got tax-free childcare, you've got childcare benefits and other support that's available, and it's a minefield. And then on top of that, you have to potentially face these challenges around not only where to find the support, but also whether that support is available from your local providers. So it's really, really challenging for parents. And when you add to the fact that parents are facing rising costs at the moment, whether it is with childcare or other costs, 1.6 million households are going to be remortgaging this year, and they've had cost of living challenges as well. So it's a real challenge for parents.
And this is borne out in this poll that you've done, isn't it, in terms of the numbers of parents who say that they're struggling so much they're actually cutting back on what they're spending on food, for example. Absolutely,
but yeah, there's a significant proportion that have cut down on food, and parents are having to make a lot of really difficult choices. Not only cutting food, actually whether they work as well. Approximately 70% of those parents in our research said that they're having to make a decision about whether to reduce their working hours. And with the British economy, two of the fundamental issues at the moment are the change in the employee base following the pandemic, and also productivity. And if people are having to reduce their hours because of childcare, that means there's less workers available, and that damages the productivity and also forces employers potentially to raise wages. And that, of course, has impact on inflation as well.
So, Rajan, Labour are saying that the Tories have got childcare pledges without a plan. Have they shone any light on what their plan would be for childcare?
Well, Labour have talked about how they want to support childcare, and have put forward a number of initiatives. I think they have questioned the deliverability of what the Conservatives have produced, but I think there is, without a doubt, whoever is in government after the next election, childcare is going to be a very important focus. And I think Labour will probably reveal more details when it comes to when their manifesto is published. But that's, I think, a really important development for parents, is that over the last 2 years, childcare is now one of the big political issues, and that's a really promising development.
And of course, that feeds into a much bigger political argument about how we make sure this country grows and prospers. And of course, we need to look after children, as you rightly say, to get people back into work so we don't have to rely on imported labour.
yeah, there is that broader impact on immigration as well, and there has been a big rise in immigration because there are essential jobs within the UK that there aren't employees available to fill those, and that's led to that increase in immigration. So over the longer term, there are some questions around, what we do want the UK to look, in terms of its policy, what is it around immigration, what is it in terms of employment? These are, massive questions, and they're all connected with childcare, which is, I think, a really key way of why it's become such an important political issue. And as I said, whoever's in government, it's going to be a critical issue for them to address. And I think the fundamental thing is to make sure that childcare providers do have the finance and support they need to deliver on these changes. They're ambitious changes, they're important changes, but they need to have that deliverability to do that. And that's really important. And also making sure that parents have all the information they need to make the right choices for their children.
Speaking of, Rajan, where can young parents go to get information on what is available for them at the moment, asking for a friend?
So the government's official website is actually quite helpful. So there is a really good summary of all the different types of support that are available. So you can get free childcare hours, which is what's being extended today. You've got tax-free childcare as well, and as well as a child benefit. And that's something that the government did change. So before, there was a cut-off from 50,000 onwards where the child benefit would be tapered. And then if you earn £60,000 or more, you wouldn't receive child benefit. Now that's been changed. The Chancellor said that actually you can receive child benefit if you earn up to 60,000, and then that taper begins from 60,000 to 80,000, where that child benefit is reduced. So there's some additional support available. So it's really important parents take advantage of that.
I will have a look later. Thank you so much, Rajan Lakhani there. Thank you for joining us this morning.